Hello and welcome to Next 2.0 on WQLN PBS NPR. Next is produced by Black Cess Media, the new parent company of The Public's Voice. The interns working behind the scenes to make this episode possible are Aaron Cronin and Alani Simmons. I'm your host, Marcus Atkinson. If you want to know more about Next 2.0, you can go to Facebook and like the page. You can also follow us on Instagram at Next 2.0 Erie. There you can keep up with upcoming show promos, events, and clips about what's next for our community and our democracy. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is part two of a obviously two-part special that I teed up a couple of weeks ago. There was an event on July 17th, Thursday, July 17th, at the Blasco Library here in Erie, Pennsylvania. It was called Race, Place, and Belonging, Being Black in Erie. And what a fascinating panel discussion it was. It was hosted by the Human County Human Relations Commission. And the person that is the executive director of that is Mrs. Kristy Gnibus. Kristy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And as you've heard from the last show, fascinating panel. The panelists were great. I thought it was very ambitious. There was a good number of panelists. I was like, ooh, they're going to fight over this microphone today. But it was very insightful. I think that I would imagine that the audience learned a lot from it. I played the clip for you all last week or a couple of weeks ago from attorney Nikki Page, and she just had a powerful take. Everything she said was powerful that evening. But I want to throw it over to you, Kristy. First of all, thank you for doing this. This is one of a series here, and I've got the first series. The first of this series was Pride, Protection, and Practice, Ethical Responsibilities and Discrimination Protections.
Yes.
In Erie County. This is a 4-part series?
So that is part of an ongoing educational thing that we're doing. But the Black in Erie series is kind of its own.
Got it.
So that panel that we just had was the first. And then the next one that we're going to be doing is going to be focusing on being young and Black.
Okay.
And then we're going to keep going and focus on being Black in Erie and the different intersections or different demographics of folks and kind of like dive in more on being Black in Erie, because I think the panel was very broad. Right.
And so the interesting part about this is that it has made national news that we have a county executive that is extremely contentious when it comes to all things DEI. You want to talk about the experience of Black folk, I don't have to guess. I know that this person is like, ain't nobody got time for that, right? And here you are representing the county, bringing forth these awareness panels for all the right reasons, and it looks at all the different ones I'm looking at. Information is needed in community. Did you receive any pushback from doing something like this?
Yes. Well, one, I don't think our county executive, I know that he doesn't approve of this office. I don't think he thinks that it is a needed office, that the Human Relations Commission is particularly important. This office has been in place since the 90s. The ordinance was most recently updated in 2021, and it's very clear that discrimination is happening every day in Erie and across the nation and is very needed. So no, he definitely doesn't approve of the HRC in general, and I certainly don't think that he approves of the outreach that I've already begun.
Right. And so to me, that brings forth an even greater sense of urgency about the issues that you're bringing to the table, because we are not at a place in society where things are what we would have hoped they've been, especially based upon everything that we claim as America and things along those lines. But so you put this panel together. It wasn't met with rousing applause at the county-wide level anyways. What was the reaction of just the public when you started to look for panelists? You started to put this together as you're asking people to take part in this. What was their reaction? And I'll say that because of this before you answer that question. These kind of panels go both directions. You've got your, from a religious standpoint, I stopped doing them because you had a lot of these predominantly white churches. This is their way of saying, see, we're trying to make sure the problem gets solved. Things don't change within their own congregations. And so there's so many people had events like this, especially post I wanted to say Rodney King, George Floyd, and post-COVID. What makes this different? How was it received? And how was this birthed in your spirit?
So, I mean, I'm a white person, and I know that that approaching other folks that are either in the queer community or the Black community or the refugee community, there's barriers there because there's mistrust.
Right.
Because I think in general, like you said, a lot of folks come to the table and say, I'm going to do something. I'm going to look what I did. And they do a one off and it's done. I think that's why it was so important to really emphasize that this is a series and this is backed up by law. There's an actual ordinance that supposed to prevent and hopefully eradicate discrimination in Erie County. And so I think when I stepped into this role, I thought, what I haven't seen is one, a huge push for outreach so people know what we do here in Erie County and what the HRC does. And I knew that I might get that pushback. So it was a lot of persistence in reaching out to folks, letting them know who I am, what we do, and that we weren't going to just do a one and done, that this is going to be a continuing conversation, not just for the rest of the year, but next year. And for as long as this office is in place, we should be continually having conversations about all the different protected classes, what is happening in our community, and how we can make it better.
So the HRC has been in existence for how long? And did it go away and come back? Or what's the background on that?
So it's been since the 90s, and it's mostly been around, but I think that the way that the office was ran prior to me is quiet, like quietly taking in cases of discrimination, maybe hosting something here and there about maybe housing or employment. But I don't think really being loud. And I think when I'm talking to folks and I let them know that this office has been around since the 90s, nobody knows that.
I didn't.
Right. That's
And
a problem.
I'm a guy who understands what's going on in Erie.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right. And so that was something that I knew how to change. And outreach is part of the ordinance. I mean, this ordinance is taking in claims of discrimination and going through that process. But the other part of the ordinance is outreach and education. Where has that part been? I am happy to do that. I have a teaching background. I've been an advocate for my community for a long time. So this part feels really good and comfortable to me. And I know as we continue to go forth and keep having these types of sessions and panels, more trust will be built between us and the people. And it'll get easier and easier to start making these panels and sessions.
Right. And listen, I don't have to do this for I don't do this for every panelist, but if you're not from Erie, I can endorse exactly what Kristy has just said in terms of her being an advocate of the community, all of the community, and not drawing any lines, and yes, she is a white woman, but she has definitely earned the respect of Greater Erie in terms of her being about the human experience in a holistic manner. You think about people like Father Flager in Chicago, white pastor, who has earned the trust of everybody because he's just about the work. The Benedictine sisters here, these quiet little, not really quiet, these older white women, but they've earned the respect of everybody because they're about the work and for the right in terms of the work. And so you've certainly earned that reputation. So I just wanted to go ahead and confirm that as well. So you put the audience together or the panel together, and I'll tell you the couple of the panelists that stand out to me. All of them were very good. Autumn Parker, I didn't know. Pleasant surprise. I've heard her name a time or two. Didn't know. Pleasant surprise. Mark Blunt is a co-host here from time to time, and there's a reason he's a co-host here, just a learned brother. Marshall, it was good to hear from his son and hear a different kind of perspective. Tiffany Levette. Tiffany's a go-getter. She's an activist. She's been doing her thing for a while. Edison Nicholson, same situation. YLI, Youth Leadership Institute. He's got years under his belt with that. He is not a newcomer. Ashton Jones is a great new face on the scene, bank manager, successful photographer for a lot of the people in the inner city as well. And obviously Nikki Page, who is always at the top of my favorites list. I mean, I am destined to do something with Nikki Page. Nikki, if you're listening, we got to talk about it. I don't know what it is, but something's coming, and then pronounce Marty's last name for me. I butchered it the last time. I didn't even attempt it. It's a tough one.
Nachuku?
Okay.
Marty, I'm sorry.
Marty is, what is she, 30s?
She's young, yeah.
Yeah, early 30s, I don't know.
Late 20s, early 30s is my guess.
Very, very sharp young sister. I mean, she has such I don't even know who to compare it to if you're not from Erie, but she just has such a calm, intellectual way about her. There is a confidence, but there is a humble confidence about her, the way she carries herself. I don't know a lot about her. I know that Erie County United has done really well under her leadership, and she is just somebody that I hope that we see and hear more from as time goes on. She's a wonderful asset to
Yes.
the community, and I think we all found that out that
Yes.
day. Give us the feedback of the panelists first. How did they feel about it after this um, panel discussion came and went?
A lot of them were thankful to have the platform. I think a lot of people don't feel like they're heard, and this was like, hey, you're going to get an audience, and you're bringing them to me so I can speak my truth. I think that was the theme I heard through many of the panelists was having that platform and being able to talk about their experience or their feelings on certain topics that were being brought up by Pastor Gaines. The other thing is like they want more. They want
Of
more of
course.
them. And then I really want to hear their ideas. Like,
Yeah.
where should it go from here? And the next one that we're going to do is focusing on being young and Black. I had other folks, Marty being another person that talked about, well, what about having people that are from Erie that are Black and the folks that are not from Erie? And so that was another thought, whether you're Native or not, talking about maybe the intersections between refugees and being Black. And then any of the other ones as well. I mean, we talk about familial status being involved, criminal history, disability. So there's lots of other ways that we can go. And that was like another part that they were thinking is where can we go from here so we can continue this conversation? Because
Mhm.
again, we can't just be done. This didn't. We got out there, we talked, we gave them a platform, but that's not it. There's so much more to talk about. There's so
Right.
much more to learn. I mean, we talk about the nation. Of course, there's an issue, but Erie specifically has an issue. I
Yeah.
mean, the housing market. I think 70% of homeowners are white versus I don't know the exact number, but I think it's less than 30% are
Mhm.
Black. That's homeowners. Then we talk about unemployment. I think the number is if not double, triple if you're Black. So there's specific issues here in Erie that are much higher than other places, and we need to continue the conversation. And they
Right.
agreed.
Right. And that's something that should be laid bare. I want to go back very quickly before we keep talking about the event because I'm looking at this brochure for the Erie County Human Relations Commission. One, it makes me feel silly for asking, is this a 4-part series? And you say, no, this is continuous because there's a lot of things that you're going after here, rightfully so. And I want to read this just so that you understand uh, the words that she gave us opening this conversation up. There's a lot of things that need to be taken care of. I think our minds automatically go to black and white. And that mindset allows it to be demonized when we talk about DEI, because the first thing white folks think about is Black folks. And unfortunately, a lot of times the first thing Black folks think about, yeah, us. Nah, it's a pretty broad conversation. So let me read this. It says the Erie County Human Relations Commission ordinance identifies the following as protected civil rights. Now, this is on their official brochure: race, color, familial status, religious creed, ancestry, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, criminal history, source of income, disability of the person, the use of guide or support animals because of the disability of the person, or because the person is a handler or trainer of support or guide animals. That is a very holistic list.
Yes.
And so when we talk about politicians, be it at the county level or whomever or wherever, not having the intestinal fortitude for this work, well, I defy anybody to talk about the validity of this work, especially when you see that list.
Right.
And the common denominator thing I always say is, before I go back to this, is love it or hate it, when people are taxpayers, they deserve protections from those tax dollars. End of discussion. And that's always my thing when it comes to people's isms and their likes or dislike. The transgender person that you don't, are they a taxpayer? More than likely, yes. Then sucks for you. This is taxpayer dollars. The Black person, the white person, that get off of it already.
Yes. Yeah, everybody deserves. I mean, we talk about what America stands for. It's equal opportunity,
Equal opportunity.
right? And freedom to live the
Yes.
way that you want to live if you're not harming other people, employment, housing. access to public accommodations, education. Those are the bare standards of what America is.
Right.
And our job at the Erie County HRC is to protect those folks, to make sure that they're receiving equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I'm listening to something on CNN the other day, and the knucklehead in chief was talking about signing an executive order to get homeless people off the street. I'm like, well, these homeless people are citizens.
Right.
They may be citizens you don't approve of,
Sure.
but they're citizens. And
Right.
so how do you plan on doing this? And this pattern on a national level, which that on a county level, some people seek to imitate, this pattern on a national level of, well, we can trample on people's rights. It's okay as long as I can find the right angle to get it, a majority to say, yeah, I'm good with it because you've touched on my ism. Somebody has to be the vanguard saying, nah, that's not what we do. And this is your job and your position. And so we applaud that. Back to the event. And so this is the feedback for the people that are on the panel. Talk about the audience members, because I think there were a lot of aha moments in the audience for a lot of people. I love that one of the questions from Pastor Gaines, who was the moderator, was for people to give, and I'm paraphrasing, their own personal experiences of racism and discrimination. And that flies in the face of the fact that so many people will still ask Black people, well, what has happened to you personally? Take slavery out of it.
Sure.
Well, that was an arrogant ass question, as if,
Right.
take slavery out of it, these things aren't still happening to us.
Yes.
And the narratives came flying off the stage.
Yeah.
When you asked that question. Talk about it.
Some of the feedback, I was surprised because when you're running an event, you're kind of like looking at the logistics, you're making sure everything's working. So I'm standing in the back looking at it in a logistical sense and making sure the mics are working and things are flowing. So hearing as people were leaving their comments, and I remember having a few like, oh my gosh moments and a couple goosebump moments, but some folks talked about crying. Some folks actually cried. They were like,
I bet.
There was a lot of white folks in the audience, and there's this privilege of ignoring bad news. I call it the white privilege of ignoring bad news.
There it is.
What a privilege it is to not have to think about how hard it is for other folks, right? A lot, especially lately, because the bad news is just everywhere, all over, worldwide. I mean, it's hard to ignore. That's just such a privileged thing, and I think it took a lot of people out of their comfort zone, and it brought them back to reality, saying like, you can't turn away forever. You have to do something. So there was some tearful moments for some people, which I thought was good. And then, a lot of folks said they couldn't put words to what they were thinking, but I think Nikki Page talked about when she walked in and the judge thought she was a defendant because she was a Black woman.
She was the assistant DA.
And yes. And I think people are like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane. What an insult. And Nikki, of course, took it with stride. But my gosh, like, hearing those type of experiences, I think brought it to the forefront for people that maybe for so long were ignoring it.
Right.
That want to say they're allies, but for the most part aren't actively doing something about it.
Right.
And that's, again, why this is so important. Like, let's keep going. Some of the folks that were in there afterwards said they felt seen. Some of the, especially the younger Black folks that were walking out, were like, it felt so nice to hear people talk about what I'm feeling every day. No one really talks about it. We kind of live our life, or we're, kind of living in the moment. We're not like taking a step back saying, wow, this is hard. It's hard always feeling like I'm the elephant in the room because of the skin of, the color of my skin. Or I feel like maybe I'm not trusted. Or should we be talking to our sons about how to react when they're pulled over? That was an interesting conversation. And there were so many different thoughts on that. Mark had a very different thought on that than, say, Ashton. Mark was like, no, I teach my sons, you do what you're supposed to and you be respectful, period. And Ashton felt differently about it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because that's one of those, none of these debates internally are monolithic. Yeah, certain things that Black folks in general hit on, like, almost to a person, we're on the same page there. That's an issue, and I know that as a member of 100 Black Men of America, we're in the process of, our Vice President Matt Harris is a retired state trooper. and Brian Arrington, who's a member, is also a retired state trooper. They're putting together something that we can do in conjunction with the Erie School District along those lines. But it is a great debate. Some people say, I'm not teaching my son to be inferior to the world. At the same time, I got the survive the encounter speech. I give my sons the survive the encounter speech. And if you're listening, it sounds like it is hyperbole to say survive the encounter. So being pulled over for a tail light, for running a yellow light, can end up being a death sentence when you are Black. And you watch videos of white people cuss police officers out, put their hands on police officers. And the police officers will sometimes involve themselves in hand-to-hand combat before they break out the taser.
Right.
And you notice I said before they break out the taser, not the gun. But for Black men, it is what it is. The Nikki Page story was so heartbreaking because if you don't know Nikki, you see Nikki, let's just say she's not an attorney. She still looks like a professional woman.
Yes.
Real estate agent, attorney, whatever. And to have this judge bring this woman who looks very professional, this attorney, bring this woman into a judge's chamber, and this judge lose his mind like, how dare you bring a defendant into my chamber?
Yeah.
Up close and personal.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Unbelievable.
And Nikki's younger than I am. So this is not, the 90-year-old woman telling stories about the water fountain that had the for whites only at it, because that's what y'all envision.
This was recent.
This was recent. Assistant DA in Brooklyn, New York. For me, Nikki telling that story and that 11th Street story, those were mic drop moments for me. Give me some of the mic drop moments for you that you feel like, you know what, that was a game-changing comment. Even if I don't get the feedback from others, that was a game-changing comment.
Well, I kind of want to piggyback on what Nikki was saying because she kept talking about this machine in your brain.
The program.
You got to question the program. And if you're going to take anything away from just that one panel, you should always be questioning the program, which I sometimes call the unconscious bias. Like I talk to my mom about this all the time.
Yes.
Like when you can't say to someone like Nikki Page, oh, well, you're a well-spoken person. Why
What does that
wouldn't
mean?
they be?
Yeah.
What do you mean? That's an unconscious bias that you need to pause and question. Why would you say that? Would
Right.
you say that to somebody else?
Right.
And so I thought that was like a very educational moment that I've heard talked about before. But if the audience is learning something that they can improve on, the white folks in that audience, is to continually question their own bias.
Yeah.
People think that they're not, they are.
Yes.
Even the best of us. I'm biased. I'm working on it all the time. And I can only just hopefully get better and better and better and educate myself. So I really thought that was powerful, talking about this program that we consistently need to question. And then talking again about the police officer thing, the reason why I thought it was so interesting is I wasn't always my best self as a young person.
Right, none of
and
us
I
were.
used to get pulled over for speeding a lot. My mom, I'll make sure she listens, she would agree. And I remember what a bad attitude I would have with the officers. How dare you
Yeah.
pull me over? And I'm thinking, I can't even imagine. Like, I would never do that now, but like as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I really thought like, oh, no, how dare you? I have the right to go as fast as I want. And the attitude I would have towards police officers or authority in general, and what a crazy privilege that is, where I don't have to fear for my life when I'm pulled over, and how my best friend, whose husband forgot to renew her registration, she gets pulled over at night on the, coming home from a friend's house, feels like she's like she's terrified, and she's being spoken to. She feels like a criminal.
Right.
And so like what a difference that was. And it's just like kind of the in your face moments like that, the teachable moments, the in your face moments about like, this is what it's really like. Of course, the one about Nikki going into the chambers. But then also just talking about like the hope that people felt too. I think
Yeah.
there was some positive moments in that panel.
Absolutely.
And
Because there's a lot to be positive about.
there is. And the community that people found, I thought that was nice, talking about who do you feel like is an ally, who can you rely on, what what is it that we can do better. I thought that was the positive part as well. That was important in that panel.
Right. Implicit bias is so insidious, and I'm happy that she talked about the programming and she used the example of television. She said, "What do they call TV? TV program, television programming," and that's
Yes.
exactly what it's doing. And I'm reminded of why Dr. King chose to imitate Gandhi's nonviolence resistance. And when John Lewis was asked about it, he said the nonviolence resistance method honors the fact that even the haters have been programmed and poisoned by the same system that has programmed and poisoned us. So this programming, there's been so many different programs of implicit bias set in motion from the very beginning. Rich versus poor, obviously black and white, the women narrative, all of these to this very day, like America was built on controlled narratives. And I'm not trying to be negative. I mean, it's just a thing of fact. And the founding fathers, for all of their statues and all of their lionizing, did a wonderful job at propaganda. And they controlled the narrative. And so here we are now in 2025, and there are still these isms with people of color against themselves, and men and women and black. And so, as you're saying that, that's a deep, deep discussion. Because even within our community, if I speak a certain way, other black folks will have implicit bias toward me. Or if somebody dresses a certain way, other black folks will have implicit bias toward. And so if you're listening, I'm trying to give this holistic breakdown to help you understand that don't feel convicted with white people. Y'all need to get implicit bias. This country was built on these false narratives. So as Kristy pointed out, we're all running around with implicit biases
Yes.
against our own genders sometimes,
Oh,
our own
absolutely.
race.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
And so, but it's even heightened and more exaggerated when you think about the storied history, unfortunately, of black and white, right? And so it comes to an end. Graded. 1 to 10. How did it play out in terms of the way you envisioned this event?
No, nothing's perfect, but I would say this is a good 8 or 9 for the first one.
Yeah.
I felt like the panelists, I mean, it was a packed panel because when you talked about what was the barriers or what was, the feedback about getting this even going, was it was hard to get people to say yes. And then all of a sudden it was everyone
Everybody
said yes.
says it.
And then I was like, well, I can't turn anyone down. So here we go. We have a really large panel because I think everyone's voice is important. And this was part of the, hopefully trust building that I'm creating with myself, this office, and other folks in the community. But the panel was large. So, there's folks would have liked to hear more from.
Right.
But that's something that hopefully we can address in the future.
Sure.
And some folks didn't hear about it until after, and that's maybe because even though I put out press releases and we tried to get on the news about it and put things on social media, probably not everyone knew about this panel. And so I'm hoping that more people know about what we're doing. Our events are going to be on our website. We're trying to make sure the social media is very active going forward, that more people will know to show up. Because I think it was a good, healthy crowd. But I would like to see every seat filled. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we deserve to have every seat filled.
I think you will after that one.
Yes, I hope so.
I agree with you. I've had people say, man, I didn't know, because it is a buzz about it. There is a buzz.
Yes.
So excellent. Bravo for doing that. Let's touch very quickly. You've touched on the one for being Black and Young in Erie. That's coming up in October
Yes.
1st, right? That should be as riveting, if not more. And listen, if you attend that, you will even hear some of the generational stuff that we're talking about, even amongst Black folks. I mean, it's all of this implicit bias thing. It's the beast that just runs through everything, because it's what America was built on, unfortunately. Your next one coming up, though, is disability rights and protection. Speak about that real quick as we go to the finish line.
Sure. So you read the whole list of protected classes here in Erie. It's quite vast. I did one on Pride, and that was in June, which is Pride Month. Started the Black and Erie series. Disability rights is something that I think a lot of people are unclear on what that means, especially when it comes to public accommodations. So want to talk about what are your rights? And people often think, oh, wheelchair or physical. Again, it's what we see with our eyes. But there's so many other disabilities as well that maybe folks aren't thinking about. And maybe there also is a bias with that as well. And making sure that the folks in Erie County are being held responsible for that as well. Like barriers. I think just recently, I know just recently the city of Erie is doing some things to State Street. And in their contract, they did not take into consideration some ADA situations.
That surprises.
Isn't that surprising?
Didn't we just went through that whole thing a couple of years ago where they had to go back and retroactively cut all of these?
I got wind of that and immediately sent if you do not, you need to take pause, make this right, or Erie County HRC will go forward with a complaint of discrimination. And that put pause, and they are hopefully fixing that. So I get to see the new contract. But it's just still happening everywhere. So I'm looking forward to addressing, the disability rights that are in employment, that are in public accommodations, and that are in housing.
Right. And listen, nobody's questioning the motive of City Hall when it comes to that. I mean, we're not saying why the oversight happened.
Yeah.
But the point is, it needed to be corrected.
Right. And that's what we're here is like, hey, don't forget. These are important things to
100%.
remember. Like if you think about just the things you see, we have a ramp. Well, it's not just ramps. There's so many other things that you need to think about in terms of accessibility. And we're here to have that gentle reminder, hopefully gentle before it becomes a lawful reminder.
Yeah. This seems like a perfect pairing. Your personality, your background, and this role. How did you find this role? Because that was the thing that jumped out at me. I didn't know a thing about this. Two, could they have found a better suited candidate?
Yeah.
How did this land on your lap?
So actually I saw it go up. I saw it advertised the first round, and I was like, no, because I have a 1.5-year-old, and I'm like, I'm kind of in a good spot right now. I don't need to do anything crazy. Well, it didn't work out their first round. They had a candidate, and the candidate ended up taking a different position. So they re-advertised again. And I'm like, is this fate?
Feels like that.
I was like, all right, I'll apply. And I didn't really tell very many people. I didn't tell any counsel. I didn't want it to look political. I wanted this to be wholly on my qualifications for this job. And after the first interview I had, hearing about what this job could be, what it was, and then what it could be, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. I love a challenge. I love outreach. I love people. I would love to have a job where I feel like I'm making a difference. And I've always felt like that in everything I do. And then I said, when I got the offer, I said yes, and here we are.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
And this is just some of the fruit from that. You've been in, how long have you been in this role?
A month and a half.
A month and a half. How about that? And already her presence is being felt. This is why I said this feels like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So despite whomever that may feel some kind of way about some of the things that you're doing, it sounds like this is what the role calls for.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that someone is there to honor it. Chris, anything you want to say before we close the show out?
Just definitely look us up, Erie County Human Relations Commission. We have a pretty robust website, social media. You can contact us by phone, by email. If you're not sure if something is discrimination, call, ask. Because sometimes I can direct you in the right place if it's not. But we want to know about what's happening in the community. And if you think that there's a place for me to talk or there's an educational opportunity for me to be a part of, let me know.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, Kristy Gnibus, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you, the listener, for listening to yet another episode of Next 2.0. That's it for our show today. You can tune in next time for more discussion and analysis with both local and national guests. I need you to remember that Next 2.0 streams on Fridays on all major podcast platforms and on the fourth Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. on WQLN PBS NPR, which is 91.3 FM on your dial. If you want to leave a message, comment, or suggestion for the show, you can just call the hotline at 814-240-8816. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Marcus Atkinson. Join us again so that you can hear about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Peace.